Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Adam.
And today is movie club number 12. Haven't done one for a while, but we are back, and it is, whichever way you want to do it.
I don't know which.
One works for you, one works for the audience.
Exactly.
So do them both. Movie club number 12. First one since May, I think. Took a little break on those with a lot of summer travel and those types of things. But we're back. Unfortunately, Dylan could not join us for this one, which I am disappointed about. He's on vacation and he was sick like the one day this week before he left when we maybe could have done it. This would have been a much more fun conversation with three people, I think. But
and we all watched it together.
That's true. We all watched it together, so it was a whole thing. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle week here at Speak, Film, and Enter. So we just released our review for Mutant Mayhem. You can go check that one out if you want to hear our thoughts on the new movie. But for Movie Club here, we're going to be talking about the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and its sequel, The Secret of the Ooze from 1991. We will not be discussing the third one, which it feels weird. It feels weird for me to say isn't good when we're talking like. I like the first two. I don't like the third one. So there was really, I didn't feel like treating this as a trilogy. I treat this much more as just like a nice, tight duology. These two go together well. Adam, so we'll start with the first one, do about 10, 15 minutes on that, and then we'll dive into The Secret of the Ooze after that. So, Adam, would you like to tell the people what Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is about?
Indeed. From 1990. A quartet of mutated humanoid turtles clash with an uprising criminal gang of ninjas.
Yeah.
Which is just the best description you can possibly get.
Right. That's all you need to know. Do you need more there?
No. The humanoid turtles, they're fighting ninjas. Go.
Exactly. Right. Enjoy yourself.
I release you.
Yeah, so this one is live action with real sets, real costumes.
Yep.
Not CGI, which I think is one of the reasons that this holds up so well. I like this and Secret of the Ooze, two movies that my brother and I watched a ton growing up in the 90s. And you had never seen either before until this past weekend when you and Dylan and I watched both of them together. Correct. So we come at these movies from very different angles. So I guess start with you. Since you just watched them for the first time, what'd you think?
So the first thing I noticed, obviously, is the costumes because, the mouths don't move or whatever. But I much prefer real costumes over CGI, especially like rushed or bad CGI or CGI that's going to look rushed in, 2 years, 10 years, something like that. Because when you revisit it, you want it to look like you remember. Mm-hmm. So that was the first thing I noticed. Also, like I've seen very minimal clips. Obviously, like I know the song that Vanilla Ice has
in the second one,
the second one. So I'm aware of that and like its video and all that kind of thing. I liked them both. They were both better than I thought they'd be. The first one has more action than I thought it would, and I definitely enjoyed some of the humor, some of the smart humor they had. Because I mean, as a franchise, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is like a kids movie, a kids show. Or like young adult at best, teenagers. And some of the jokes that they throw in are definitely like, that's a thinker, or like you had to know like pop culture to know what they're referencing. Like you as a kid, you'll know it's funny, but you won't really understand why. And in the first one, you get a little bit more of like, hey, you had to kind of know what was going on. I was a big fan. I don't think that they're like spectacular by any means, but they're good. The stories are tight and the action's fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. So there are a lot of movies. Everybody has these movies you loved when you were a kid. And then you get older, you revisit them. And sometimes you go, ugh, this is not a good movie.
This is not great.
Yeah. This one, I fully contend. I legitimately believe that the first one of these is a very good movie. I think it's a lot smarter than most movies like this for kids are. The fact that it actually focuses on like some interesting father-son relationships and how like all the Foot Clan are basically just like kids from broken homes.
Yeah.
And kind of weaving that in and sort of juxtaposing them against like the fact that Splinter's like a really good dad.
Yeah.
And who actually like cares about his kids, his adopted kids. It's a smarter movie than I think it generally gets credit for, just because it's called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it mostly just has like silly turtle teenagers fighting hapless ninja red shirts.
Yeah.
Essentially. But I had a lot of fun watching this again with both of you, and it made me very happy that you enjoyed yourself with these, because you're never really sure how people are going to react to things like this watching them for the first time as an adult, because so much of the power of returning to things like this, or the fact that, like I've mentioned before, my brother and I still quote both of these movies to each other sometimes, and it's something that we grew up with. But I do think that the costumes and like the action and the practical effects are part of what make this hold up so well. There's no amount of like aging that you get from like early 2000s stuff where they're like, hey, we can use CGI now.
Yeah.
Where like 3 years later, it already kind of looked like shit.
Yep.
And this was sort of like the last hurrah for practical effects in a way. I mean, this came out a year after Tim Burton's Batman movie, I want to say.
Okay.
Like right around the same time. And I mean, Tim Burton stuff, especially like that Batman movie, have amazing like production, set design and stuff in there. And there are moments in this movie where I looked at kind of the design of the city and the aesthetic and everything, where I thought like, this kind of reminds me a lot of that. And then just props to these three guys for being able to do all this stuff in these costumes. Like they dance a little bit, they fight. Four guys. Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Clearly, I'm just not a fan of at all.
Right. No, I agree.
Raph would think that I'm talking about him.
Yeah, I think you are. I think that's what it is. Yeah. It's that deep-seated,
right?
context.
He's the outsider.
He's the outsider.
I don't even consider him to be related.
No, I agree. I think like you have actors acting in both of these, and like actually, donning the suit and doing all of the motions and making it look, as real as you can. I mean, the action sequences in both of these, in the first one, you've got more weapons, and the second one, it's more hand to hand. But like you're actually, you're kicking the stunt guys, you're making contact. It looks more than like some of the other ones where like you can get away with more in animation, but like sometimes it's like, oh, cool, he thwacked him on the head, or like he did that. You have to come up with other kind of gags to sell either the action or like make the action interesting and like provide a plot moving device in the action. And this one, it does all of it itself because you actually have the actors doing the motions.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also get, I think, some pretty solid performances. This would be such a weird movie to act in.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be weirder to be in this or to be in like one of the Marvel movies where everybody's just like CGI anyway. Although like you're acting with actors. They're just all wearing like weird suits.
Yeah, they're all wearing
But in this one,
suit.
like you got Judith Hogue as April and Elias Kosteas, I don't know how to pronounce his name, as Casey Jones, who are like on camera having to have serious conversations with these turtles, like these guys in like these costumes. And I feel like that would be kind of difficult. I definitely prefer Judith Hogue because they recast April in the second movie, and I like her better here. I think we're introduced to her in a more interesting way, but that's also because it's the first movie. But she just kind of feels a little more kind of down to earth, and like
she's more. Sorry, go ahead.
She's got the store, and she's kind of coming up like from the ground up, like they are. Like she's more of a upstart scrappy reporter rather than like sort of the star that she is in the second one, seemingly. And I just feel like her apartment fits the aesthetic better in this movie. And the fact that like she's kind of the one who, like, when they get attacked and they have to retreat, like they go to her farmhouse. So like that's interesting. I also think that this movie is, I think I've mentioned before how one of my favorite things in movies like this, often in like superhero movies, but not purely in there, is when like the main characters or the hero's home gets attacked and is no longer safe, and they have to retreat somewhere else, and they're kind of scattered and they need to regroup. And this feels like a very foundational piece for me for why I like that so much, because they're attacked here. They're low. Like Raph is unconscious and April's house burns down and they got to flee to the country and regroup. And it's just, I mean, we watched it. It's like an 85-minute movie or something. When I was like 5, this all felt very, very dramatic. Like they had taken a huge defeat. Splinter's gone. Like Raph is wounded.
Absolutely.
Neither of their homes are safe. They don't have anywhere to go. And I found that very intriguing and dramatic as a kid, and I think it still works here. It happens much more quickly as an adult than I remembered it. I remember that being like a long sequence as a kid, and it's like maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more, but I really like that part, and I think that's another reason why I prefer this version of April to the one we get in the second movie.
Yeah, she's definitely more of a quote real person in this one. I also think, like, unfortunately, in the second one, because she's now a star after she's broken this story and all that stuff, and people kind of know about the Turtles, or like know about Shredder at least, or the organized crime that she helped bring down. She becomes like, they cast a too pretty of a woman to be like their friend, or to be April, I think, in the second one. And not that like that is the draw, but that's it takes away from her like authenticity to a certain degree.
Apartment's a lot nicer, and it just feels a little more like a separate world.
Yeah, like, well, we moved on, we moved into this new phase instead of being like, oh, we kept like where we came from and like what made this one good, or what made this more authentic of a relationship between the Turtles and April versus like, oh, it's just some hot young thing that like, oh, look, that one of them's got a thing for, you know what I mean? Like,
I think it's because they wanted to have that scene where Splinter explains, we're getting into the second one a little bit here now,
yeah,
explains the ooze to them. They wanted that to be like out on the balcony, and they needed her to like make enough money and have a nice enough apartment to like
have a balcony.
Yeah, to have a balcony, because otherwise, I mean, they could have done it like on the roof or something, but
yeah,
then you got to question is like, how do they get up there? And
how did she get up? She has keys.
All these things.
Yeah,
and then they're like, she needs money. I mean, it's a natural progression where she kind of negotiates it at the end of the first movie too.
Yeah,
but I mean, a big part of this too for us was just like how funny these movies are.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Like there's like Raphael is so Italian.
Oh my god.
That was making us laugh a lot.
Everything is like, you can see him like the actress being like, oh, like he's very much just like,
let's do it, eh?
Let's do it, huh? Like,
yeah,
let's go kick some butt. Like
he just leaned into that so hard, and we were really laughing at that a lot. And then, I mean, I like the way that they handle all of them. Kind of, they sort of give them each their moments subtly. Where like Leo's the more like spiritual leader, where he's kind of the one who connects through meditation and kind of feels the guilt for like sending Raph away, who then gets attacked. They give Donnie his sort of tech or like curiosity side. He's like fixing the truck with Casey Jones. Like that's kind of a fun scene.
Yep.
And also that's a scene that like I thought was hilarious when I was a kid, and like it's fine, but it's not really that funny. And then like Mikey's just the fun-loving, funny guy.
Yeah,
and he still works really well here. I don't know. I think this holds up better than most movies like it should.
Agreed.
Really? I mean, we've kind of talked the first one out, although then we did talk too about how April's boss, Danny's dad, really feels like he's in a different movie.
Oh yeah, in the first
like that
one,
actor,
like,
he's in like Ordinary People, like he's in a domestic drama.
Yeah, and he acts like it's he overdoes it to the way that it feels like a soap opera.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I mean.
So like he just like, Danny, I missed you. I love you so much. Come here and like kiss his head and like do all. And it's everybody else is like, we're in a turtle movie, guy. Like it's just he's kind of out of place, which is hilarious.
Everybody else is like Casey Jones.
Yeah, and he's like, Danny, I love you. Like,
which it's a nice moment when he finds his son who ran away.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a fun movie though. I was also just the last thing before we move on to the second one. That hangout that they have. I mean, I can see the appeal, right?
Absolutely.
Like the kids hanging out there, like they're playing cards. They got like skateboard ramps,
pool tables,
smoking cigarettes. They got arcade games.
Yeah.
No supervision.
It's paradise. Like
Yeah, it almost like the it kind of
Island of
reminded
Lost
me of
Boys.
Lost Boys and the like in Pinocchio when all those kids turn into donkeys.
Oh yeah,
Paradise Island.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the point. Because Shredder's trying to build, an army, or at least like that's an easy way to build or for kids to find loyalty to you. Give them something interesting or give them some love.
Really
It's not love
exploiting these homeless children
for his own personal gain.
We don't even really know what his ultimate goals are. It's not really important.
No, it's not. The last thing I'll say about the first movie is just how absolutely brutal like Shredder's demise is.
Yeah,
he is like they they beat him and then they kill him. Like he is in a garbage truck that closes and like smushes all, like compacts everything. Like there's no way that Shredder gets out of that. We're all just like, holy shit, this is dark. Like we're obviously as a kid you don't really notice. You're like, oh, he disappeared, whatever. But like
except he does survive.
Yeah, somehow. Like it's the equivalent of somehow Palpatine returned. It's like, oh okay.
Yeah, right.
Like
yeah. It's really not far off. They both fall to their dooms, although Palpatine was not crushed by a garbage truck.
By a garbage truck.
Yeah. So the second one, Secret of the Ooze, which great title.
Yeah.
So Shredder's back. This one's a little goofier.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little more quotable in a way. It's kind of like the deal where if you watched both of them a ton growing up, you maybe watched the second one a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just because like you don't need to go through the whole origin story part of it again. One thing I learned recently is that so in this movie they learn about like the canister of ooze that created them and kind of where it comes from, and then there's one left and they're fighting over it with Shredder because he's trying to get it and to create larger, more violent mutants to help him defeat the turtles once and for all. That canister is the same canister that blinded Daredevil in the comics. So Daredevil gets,
really?
Yeah, that's what I
had no idea.
Daredevil like gets somebody like throws it or something. I don't really know exactly how it happens, but he's just like riding his bike and it just like hits him in the side of the head. And then in the Daredevil comics, it's just kind of like the canister is not a thing anymore. It's just a tool to like make him blind and like start his story.
Okay.
But then the guys who made the Turtle comics were like, what if we just followed that canister down the sewer?
Oh, that's incredible.
And they made the Turtles.
I love that.
Isn't that insane?
That's so fun. Like, yeah, let's take this thing that somebody already has and let's make more out of it. Like,
right? Like, let's just kind of, what if we follow this part of the story that they just dropped off?
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, really fun.
I love that.
Yeah, the Secret of the Ooze, Shredder's back. We get Casey Jones is gone, unfortunately.
So unfortunate.
Also, new April, Paige Turco comes on as April, who's a little I just don't think it fits the story quite as well. Not that she's bad, and I still think the movie's a lot of fun. She's just more kind of there.
Yeah.
Whereas the April in the first one felt a little more like part of everything.
Yep, agreed. And
then we do get a couple new characters. Professor Jordan Perry, so we get kind of the scientist guy. And then what is this guy's name? Not Tatsu. I'm like Keanu I'm trying to find who played him. Kino. Ernie Reyes Jr.
Yeah.
Plays Kino, who's just like a pizza delivery dude who stumbles into a robbery and the turtles help him catch the guys. And then he kind of gets caught up in the story eventually, but he knows they exist. And he's connected by constantly delivering pizzas to April's apartment because did frozen pizza not exist in 1991, or did perhaps she not trust them to use the oven?
That, or maybe she didn't want to. I mean, she's going to spend X amount more on delivery, but maybe she just thought they'd eat it all at one time, so it was easier to have it like single served to them instead of making like 8 pizzas at a time, because that's like all they eat.
Right, but I mean, like she comes home and they're the ones ordering it.
Yeah,
Like she comes home and she's like, "Oh, pizza, cool." Again?
didn't see that coming.
Yeah, like just buy some frozen ones and throw them in the freezer. You don't need to keep spending $20 every day to order a new pizza.
Listen, it's
know.
the 90s. There's probably like $8, but again,
delivery fee. Actually, no, it is at one. What is it? $13 or 10 or something. She gives him.
He gives him a 10, and he's like, "What? No tip?"
Or maybe that might have been in the first one. That's in the first one.
The tip. Maybe that's with the tip. Either way, it's cheap enough, but
the first one it's supposed to be 13, but it's late, so it's $3 off. So he gives him a 10, and he also doesn't tip the guy.
Yeah,
which cheeky. Splinter clearly didn't teach the turtles about tipping.
He already doesn't.
So I don't know. I think that she could have saved a lot of money by investing in some frozen pizzas.
Yeah. I forgot where I was going to go with that. You did say, speaking of, we sort of mentioned this, but you did say before we watched the second one in tandem with the it's goofier type of thing.
Yeah.
That like somewhere between movies 1 and 2, they got rid of having the turtles use weapons because it was
outside of like
too violent or something.
Yeah, outside of like Donatello's stick.
Okay.
Like they didn't really. There was something, I don't know what the reason was exactly, but something was kind of decreed from on high. That they couldn't use the more violent weapons in the fights anymore. So you see something like right away where like Leo throws his 2 swords up into like the ceiling and then grabs them and like kicks somebody, and those types of things. So it does give the second movie a goofier feel. It's not the only thing that gives it a goofier feel. The presence of Vanilla Ice also gives this a goofier feel, which that scene is simultaneous. Like it's not really like good, but it's one of those things that when you for the first time in a movie, you just have this reaction of how on earth is this real?
Like who let this happen? Like who
conceived of this? Like where did this all come from and how did it come together to exist at all? And that's where I have an appreciation for this thing as just as like a sort of a weird cultural touchstone.
This moment in time that just like Vanilla Ice was the biggest star in America, and they were like, we're gonna get him to write the theme song. We're gonna put him in it. He's gonna have a music video shoot basically in the movie. Like we'll give him 10 minutes. Yeah.
And they just come up with the song right on the spot in the movie. And they fight the foot at like a nightclub that's wedged between the dump and the docks. Although maybe it was one of those like sort of 90s versions of like a speakeasy.
It's just this underground spot that nobody.
Yeah, like there's no door or like or anything like that. Like you need to know that it's there, and you got to have the password.
Yep.
And if you go in there, you can see Vanilla Ice perform.
Some dark alley's got a weird staircase like that looks like it leads to the sewers, but it takes a right. You're like, oh, it's a dance club. Got it. Like,
right, because like they go in through, like they get thrown through the wall on one side, which is more just like a wooden door, basically.
Yeah.
And they just end up like in the middle of a concert, and then they get thrown off the wall on the other side, and they're just like right on the docks on the edge of the river. So this is an interesting nightclub. I've never been to New York. I'd like to know how many of them are like this. I don't know.
No noise violations. It's the docks. Like, you always got shit coming and going. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Like Brando's just there, like making sure everybody has a good time. I don't know. It's a fascinating, like, sort of climax to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And as a child watching this, it was like one of my favorite things ever.
I definitely see the allure, especially in the second one, for kids. Obviously because it's a little bit goofier, it's a little bit more like toned down. And it's it's written by the same people. They changed directors, it looks like, between 1 and 2, but all the writers and stuff stayed the same, or 2 of the writers stayed the same. So because it's obviously it's a kids movie, and I think it's very appealing for kids. There's still a lot of stuff in here for adults, and I think this movie, especially the second one, has like the funniest adult joke
Yeah.
like ever conceived in a kids movie, like more than like Shrek. Shrek's got like the not like nudge nudge wink wink of like some certain things, or, like shine your shoes and wipe your faces,
Or
like
just like
stuff.
the whole Robin Hood song.
Yeah, like all that, like it's
Mhm.
pretty adult and all that, and themes and tone and content. And this one is just like they had one shot to make like the absolute funniest version of something they could make, and everybody was in on it. Was like, this is going to be hilarious. Kids are going to miss it, and like only adults are going to see this, and adults are going to cry. They're going to laugh so hard.
Yeah, and it's
I
not.
was,
It's
oh my
like
god,
the
I was
joke is
weeping.
only just in the way that the line is delivered.
Yeah, well, and like the way like the camera's moving like up slowly to get to like somebody's
Yeah.
on like a higher place, and like
It's
they're
a very
clearly
good
going to
cut.
see him. It's just, it's perfect. Like I was crying, like actually like weeping, like couldn't get the water out of my eyes. I was laughing
Yeah.
so hard. It was
This also
I
like leans a little more into the like Raph Italian guy
yeah.
stuff. It's got the whole great sequence at the junkyard with a little too Raph, which is one of my favorite lines ever.
Yep.
It's a funny movie. And it's yes, like they do sneak in more adult humor.
Or even just like there's a scene where they're walking through the tunnels, and they've got flashlights or something, and they're walking through trying to find something, and like you see the three turtles walk in, and then Raph walks in behind them, like turns around to like check behind them with a flashlight, and just goes, "Gah!" and then just turns around and walks away. And it's just like, it's just great. Like I don't know why it's funny, but it's perfect. It's just like, everything.
Just, again, like they're kind of interactions, and they make each of them distinct, and they lean into it in the right way, like at the right times.
Yeah,
and they use Raph the loner just enough and in the right ways. There's also like Michelangelo does an amazing Humphrey Bogart impression of at the end of Casablanca at one point in this movie, which like you would not get as a child at all. And I've seen Casablanca multiple times, and it's fantastic. This impression that he does, and it's like in the rain with the umbrella and the hat, and April standing there, and like I don't know if that was in the script or if they were like doing it and somebody just looked at it and thought like, hey guys,
do it.
We gotta, because he does impressions in the first movie too, which are funny. It's just, I don't know, it's a weird movie, but I just think a lot of this works. Like it understands what it is, and just goes for that and doesn't try to be anything more. And that's why that's another reason that I think these have just kind of, for me, like these are easily the best Ninja Turtles movies.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people call them like terrible because, you know, objectively costumes and stuff look dated and all that stuff. But I think what makes this work, like we're talking about, is because it's the actors delivering these things. Like you couldn't get away with the gah moment like landing as well if it was an animated thing. You just see him turning in, like walking around and going, making a noise, and then like walking away, because it's, you know, it's like it was filmed on the stage, and these guys are walking around just doing shit, like acting, like it's it lands a little bit more. And yeah, that authenticity sticks around and definitely makes these worth seeing. I kind of want to watch these again. I don't know when I'm going to, but I would definitely watch these again. Like you get a group of people together, kind of like a background noise movie. If you've got people over and you're not watching anything else, but maybe you've got a party or like whatever, you're just having a couple drinks, throw one of these on and just be like, 'cause there's a lot of moments where the camera will linger on somebody's face or the camera will linger on an actor so that you can get a reaction. And you know, you can't always animate those things to make it as authentic. Or you move the mouth to be like a smile, like way over here instead of like an actual smile. And some of those become like what I would consider like memeable moments. They're perfect. Like that's what's funny about it, is like the situation and someone's like side eye look to you is way funnier than watching like a animated character like turn slowly and look at you. So I think that's part of the magic of these movies, is that kind of stuff.
So yeah, we're I mean, we're not going to dive into our star music or video or anything, but I mean, I gave the first one of these a 3.5 and the second one a 3.
That's what I have too.
Okay. Yeah, I do think the first one's just a better story.
Yeah.
But the second one has maybe a few bigger laughs in it and a few more just like memorable set pieces.
Absolutely.
Just kind of everything in the junkyard. Their new home is really cool.
Yep.
that they discover. Just a lot of good stuff in both of these. So I was really glad that we were able to do this. Disappointed that Dylan was not able to make this episode because, like you said, we did watch all of these together.
Yep.
But he enjoyed himself as well, and we all had a really good time watching these.
Also, the last thing I'll say is the thing that I enjoyed the most about watching these with you guys is obviously I don't think Dylan had seen them either, like myself, but knowing that you had and you knew it was coming, and maybe it's been a while since you've seen it, but every like joke that was about to happen, like you didn't like ruin anything like that. I started laughing like genuinely and thought, hey, this is really funny. And I would always look over and both of you guys were just erupting. Like you guys loved it as much as I did it. And it was my first time. And I thought like, that's the camaraderie. That's the part that's fun. And like one of the big jokes that, like I said, I was crying at, like I started laughing immediately and like immediately looked to my right and you had like exploded like off the couch, like laughing so much. And I was like, yes. Like it still hits, it still sticks the landing.
Although that was the first time I like experienced that joke as an adult joke, because it's not even a joke. If you don't kind of pick up on the way the line is delivered, it's not written as a joke. So it's not like something that kids are gonna laugh at but not understand why. It's like if you don't pick up on it, it's not a funny moment.
Yeah,
and it's not just played as a funny moment in the movie.
Yeah. That was the last thing I'll say is like that made that so much more of an enjoyable experience is because it was kind of fresh and new for everybody, even though that you had seen it and stuff before and knew it was
part of it too is like I've generally only watched these with my brother.
That's fair.
And Dylan had seen these like as a kid once and you had never seen them. So I wasn't sure how you guys were going to react to these. Our buddy Steve was there. We watched a different movie before these and then he left and I hung out with him the next day and he's watched these movies about as much as I have. Like he grew up watching these a bunch. Same with me. So like, if he had stayed, we would have kind of have been the two that were like, "Oh, I remember this."
Yeah.
But either way, it was very enjoyable for me to share these with you guys and have both of you enjoy them really as much as I did.
Yeah, it was a very memorable experience. Very good experience. I'm a big fan. So, I guess that's the last thing I'm gonna say. Like we said, we're not doing stars. I think it's your turn to put a wrap on it, unless you have
really
something
quick.
else to say. Sure.
These are on HBO Max, by the way.
Ooh, okay. Well, I just got internet back, so I might have to.
There you go.
I might have to put these
living
on.
large, Adam. You got your internet back.
I'm ready to stream TMNT.
You're watching the Ninja Turtles again.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, it is my turn to put a wrap on the show.
Take it away whenever you're ready, man.
Thanks, Raph. I may never have the hiccups again.